So this is all about residential property in England and Wales, forecasting capital returns. There's a national cyclical model, local trends, and a new build premium. Where I am right now, the district, building and unit were ground zero for both substantial losses and opportunities, and it's all foreseeable through analysis. So the case study is this unit bought in 16, and it's my lockdown office, so I know it pretty well. It's in Nottingham Lace Market Conservation Area. It was luxury warehouse conversion in 02, and by 2016 it's already resold twice at prices lower than new. So in order to analyse it, we need to reprice this in other units to a single date. I'm going to briefly describe a repeat sales index. So we compute holding period returns and for all properties in the zone, and then accrue days on calendar periods, and solve for an index X as a daily rate of return, and then focus on the error term to check the reliability against a benchmark. So our benchmark for this purpose is the Land Registry UK House Price Index, fitting holding period returns and measuring the error term. And low RMS error means that we have marginally better fit across multiple cities. So accuracy is demonstrated, and we can confidently customize both the time bins and the index zones. So we reprice units to a datum, aggregate across many units, and then to analyze new build fade, we compute M, which is price per square meter normalized by the zone average, and the multiple M is then ready to analyze through time. And new build sells for a premium, which fades, and the first owner takes a loss of minus 13% on average for flats and a bit less for houses. So average new builds multiple is 1.2 times, and for flats this decays over 10 to 13 years towards 1, and for houses it's a little less dramatic. And accruing this residual into years using the same method as the index, it seems like the effect is not going away and maybe accelerating. 2020 was the worst year in a decade. So loss is proportional to the initial premium paid, and for flats the first owner on average loses half that premium and 3.7% on top. So we can also relate it to the holding period. So that's versus the premium, and that's versus the holding period down sloping. And here's the model, plain fitted, and it's got a high correlation with the actuals. And NG1 was always going to be a bit of a stinker on the model. We could foresee all of that. So loss by first owner across 104 areas, and NG1 tops the list of District 1. And in 2002 there was plenty of supply. 2/3 of all sales in NG1 were new build, but demand was strong. Now, analysing by building, this one is in at number 5. There are 2 more you can see out of the window here, and 4 of the 6 were new builds. There are substantial losses and or opportunity costs. So to look at buildings in detail, we adapt the analysis slightly, so we don't use unit square meters, which are noisy, and nor do we use the index, which doesn't really apply to new build. So all first sales in this unit completed in Q1 of 02, so that's approximately 1 point in time. We take the unit's initial fraction of building price and assume that that was fair value relative and stays constant, so we can reprice the entire building from each unit sale. And we update the building's price per square meter and express that as a multiple of the district. And in the case study, you can see we started at 1.5 times, went down through 1, and then settled down around about 0.83 and executed on 2 units at that level. The initial yields must have been really terrible, but they're over 8% by now. So if you systematically scan the country, there are always winners and losers. You just need the technology to analyse it. We're done now with the unit level. Let's talk about districts. That's the left-hand side of the postcode. So we've got 2,800 units in NG1. And now looking at East London, it's a bit more familiar. We assign the districts to quintiles, augment the area slightly, so we can calibrate the extremes, like Wapping, for example, takes peers from the west. And this is the affordability schedule. The axes are size in square meters and price vertically, and a buyer with 500k faces the dotted curve opportunities. And as prices rise, they migrate down towards the lower priced areas, and that's the ripple effect. So the spread between districts such as Wapping and Plaistow is a major driver of relative return in an area, and a linear tilt portfolio here captures this, the prime end A and the subprime end C, with no directional exposure, and we do this for all the areas in the country. It's always similar, and it turns out that this follows quite a trend, and so here's London, and CA spread has been trending up since 2014, so Southend has outperformed Wapping. The magnitude is substantial, from negative 0.17 to plus 0.16. That's 39% outperformance. And we also adjust the time bins to make the trend really clear. That's when you need the index building technology. So we do this for all areas in the country. And here are just the three examples showing that really it's a propagating wave from London through the commuter zone to Newcastle in this case. And in each area, it's a good idea to know which phase you're in. Select pricey or grotty accordingly if you want outperformance. And in Nottingham, it was quality driven in 2016, so that favoured A district, and NG1 being top quintile. Tick that box. So area selection refers to everything that's not local, and I'm going to give a stylized schematic explanation, and then we'll look at the real data. We've got three factors. Factor 1 is the average market as a whole, and factors 2 and 3 are sine and cosine waves, and 3 leads, and the period is 15 to 20 years. We're now in a similar period to 04, so factor 2 is on the way up, and factor 3 is a bit toppy. And now we look at the same cycle in a different way, and what's happening here is that the factor, the black line, is being projected onto the betas, and that's how a linear factor model works. So right now T side is getting all the love, and back in 2012 it was London. So the real cycle is very similar to the stylized sine and cosine waves, and the amplitude is about 7 units, and the period is 15 to 20 years on these cyclical factors. And the real betas follow an arc similar to the simulation, and it's the difference here, the spread, is about 0.1. So what that means is these sensitivities. So when the factor swings through 7 units, that's a 0.7 log return between differential. It's quite significant. And the arc, you can see that it's here price horizontally and that polar angle vertically, and it's a very close relation. And the circular motion can be viewed through time as a cycle, so that's factor 3 and factor 2. And the model, so now we use a forecast model, and we use the simplest multivariate one possible, which is the vector autoregression. And the model captures it forecasts back in 15 this turning point in 2016, and another one later on. We'll see if that turns out. And also factor 3, we are on the uptrend, and that is what we captured. So the locality forecasts now are done by putting the factor forecast through the betas, and we get a totally consistent, coherent set of views. And we do a back test over the 6-year period in green and 2-3-year sub-periods, and the correlation of actuals with forecasts is good. And the Nottingham has been one of the top performers, and the current gross yield is also very attractive. So why no factor 1? Well, although it's very important for explaining the index, it's not so important for the spreads. And secondly, we don't really know how, because macro policies, pandemics, recessions, these are not foreseeable, and there's also very little scope to actually select it. So the applications include home buyers, investors, whether buy-to-let or institutional, mortgage lenders, securitizers, traders of MBS, and of course intermediaries, giving a structured top-down view of the secondary market, which can be pretty baffling if you're not a local. Products are include the numerical index factor and forecast, reports like regular updates on the trends and cycle. And the software is an L package. It's well structured. It runs in a batch job overnight from source data to the final results, including this report. I've completed I've completed the ALPM Advanced Risk and Portfolio Management program, which is master's level, and this was the final project. I got access to the body of knowledge and the software libraries. I received the certificate. I conceived, planned, and developed this entire project on my own initiative, and it's my IP. I'm looking for a partner who can see the commercial potential. I'm in London weekly, and post-lockdown I'm returning there full-time. So the indices are what drives the analysis. They make the rest possible. They're accurate and they're customizable. And the factor model combines the benefits of a statistical factor model with uncorrelated factors with factors and betas that are interpretable and so fundamental. And the forecasts at 3 levels, we've got new build versus fallen angels value, and at the district level we've got the trends, and at the area level or nationally we've got a 2-factor cycle. And that was we've seen a case study here in NG1 where all 3 levels of that were applied. So I hope you found that interesting. I'd love to hear your comments, questions, and suggestions. That's all we've got time for, so I'll see you soon.